Hi viewers, welcome to another exciting episode of The AI People, where we share inspiring stories of thinkers and builders who are humanizing AI. Today we are at day 3 of RSA conference, which is the biggest cybersecurity conference in the world. And at The AI People, I'm hosting a series on AI and security, and today I have, in this episode, we have with us Gal from Teramind. Why don't you kick us off with an introduction and then we'll dive right in.
Hi Vivek, nice to meet you and it's great to be here. As I said, my name is Gal. I'm the Chief Product Officer of Teramind, and at Teramind what we do is we're at our hearts, we're a data company. We collect all data that we can on how the way work actually gets done on the endpoint, and we leverage that for a lot of insights on how a company can be safer, how can we prevent data from being lost, how can we potentially do more with what we've got, and that's why we're here at RSA.
That's awesome. And beyond what you want to share with the RSA community, personally also you will be motivated to be part of the RSA community to see how you can solve some of the challenging cybersecurity issues, especially with agentic AI coming into the picture and organizations starting to adopt new threat vectors. So I would like to get your thoughts on what are some of the major trends that you're seeing in terms of the threat landscape and also in terms of AI adoption for security. Where do you see the industry heading?
Yes, 100%. So again, as you said, and I'm sure all your audience knows, at the end of the day, it's AI and people. People is a huge factor of this, which is what Teramind is also focused on in our solution. So as I said, we track a lot of data, but at the end of the day, it's the way end users interact with their machines, interact with applications, interact with code, that is the single point of failure, the focus area of our company. We've been fortunate enough, we started as a data collection and data analysis company, but we've been fortunate enough now to have more than 10,000 customers that use Teramind, and that allows us to develop the right type of models to be able to predict when these things occur. As you said, we're at the front seat of the whole AI revolution and how that is shaping up, and how that affects the workforce as they just go about doing their jobs. And that's where we're focusing on. What we're seeing with these trends is a little bit with this AI introducing revolution, and we've seen this before. A lot of things have changed, but also kind of remain the same. So we're introducing a new way for our end users or for our employees to go and interact with machines and get about doing their jobs. But the big difference that we're seeing with AI and with agentic now is just the rapid pace in which this type of technology has kind of been launched on us, and what it would take for us to stay on top of the game. And from a cybersecurity perspective or from a risk management perspective, that interface of people and AI is the biggest source of concern, because when you introduce technologies at this rapid pace and when there's this constant pressure to do more with your time and be more productive and get more things done and start using all of these amazing tools more rapidly, that's when people make mistakes. And mistakes is what our adversaries are all going after. That's when you interact with the LLMs in a way that maybe you shouldn't, or that's where you play along with the OpenClaw and develop an agentic AI solution that runs on your machine and does crazy things for it that you never intended. That's what we're doing.
That's awesome. And obviously at RSA you will see a lot of CIOs, CISOs, both from your existing customer install as well as new prospects coming and engaging with you. So what are you hearing from these customers? Are they screaming for help, or do they find their feet on the ground? Are they sleeping well? What are some of the pain points that they are sharing with you, and what is revealing for you in terms of new challenges that you think you can solve? And given that you're leading the product initiatives at Teramind, how are you thinking about your product roadmap and capabilities going forward?
Yeah, CISOs are an incredible bunch, incredible crowd, and I don't think they've slept well ever since they decided to become CISOs. But with AI, what we're seeing is, again, right now, I think they seem to be scared, not scared, but worried, I would say, about AI and how their employees are using AI today at their workspace. Mainly because they just don't know what's going on. It's just so rapid, it's so massive. There's so many things people can do with it, and just the observability part or the interaction part is what gives them most of the grief. What we're there to tell them is that you got to start by knowing what's happening, what's out there, and place the type of guardrails that you can to make sure that you don't stifle innovation. You cannot go and tell your customers, hey, no, don't use ChatGPT or do not use Claude, right? But what can you do? And you can also not give them like this full list of 25-page documents of policy and how to interact with these tools, because it changes every day. So what we are telling them is, make sure that you understand how what is good and what is bad about what type of data you'll be willing for them to share and what not, at what place or what cases you want them to use them and what not, and then build it into the platform, into a solution like Teramind that allows you then to just enforce those guardrails at the end user level, at the machine level. And hopefully that would put them at ease, give them a little bit more to sleep.
I know you talked about endpoint management, and there's a proliferation of IoT devices. I was at CES and I was amazed as to how many different IoT devices you could potentially have, and all these IoT devices obviously are hooked to the internet, to the cloud. But how do you see the threat landscape now evolve? And at NVIDIA GTC, there were talks about physical AI and how these humanoids or these endpoint devices, IoT devices, could potentially leverage agentic AI to also bring value. So obviously the threat surface is now expanding even more. So how do you see Teramind playing a role here, given these trends?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we are at the intersection of people and their endpoints and the machines. And the endpoint can be your laptop, or it can be your mobile phone, or it can be something else in the future. What we're seeing is that the borders now are becoming more and more blurry. And Jensen discussed that as well at last week's conference, between what the human is doing on the endpoint and what the agent or the machine is doing on the same endpoint. And is the agent doing it on my behalf as an end user, or as kind of on its own? And this is where everything gets blurry. And so that type of interaction between humans and machines, humans and AI, is just gonna continue to amaze us in different ways. And at the end of the day, we need to make sure that, from Terramind's perspective, our vision is that we want to make sure that we monitor and we track and we ensure the work that gets done is done properly. Whether it's a human or an agent that does it, doesn't matter to us.
Sure. And I've been looking at some of the exhibits here. It's easily 5 to 10 football fields with 500 plus exhibitors. I know a lot of companies here are keen about solving some of these problems introduced by AI from a cybersecurity standpoint, and also address some of the legacy security issues. I would like to learn more about how Teramind is uniquely positioned to add value to your existing as well as new customers.
Yeah, this is it's a great question. I think as I said, we're at our heart, we're a data company. We're not a cybersecurity company necessarily. Cybersecurity is one more thing you can do once you understand data and once you understand how people interact with your data. And I think that puts us in a great position to understand and to interact when the broader environment changes. AI comes in now. It's not about AI technology that is so special about us. We've been there all along. And as I said, we have 10,000 customers by now, and so we understand how work gets done. And at the end of the day, agents just do our jobs faster. They find new ways about doing this. But I mean, ultimately, they're not very, very different than humans. They're just much faster, and maybe some would say smarter. But the fact that we're there, the fact that we've been tracking how work gets done, the fact that we know how people interact with their endpoints to do that job, allows us to continue to do that and position us very, very well to do that in the future with AI, with agentic, with new tools that are being enabled for employees. At our hearts, at the end of the day, it's always about humans and working with the machines.
Sounds great. And to wrap things up, what would be one advice or one key takeaway that you think will be pertinent from RSA conference? Given that there are a lot of keynotes, a lot of conversations that have happened, by now people already would have formulated some strong point of view, a way forward, at least until the next RSA conference. So what would you say is the major theme or key takeaway?
Yeah, it will surprise absolutely no one if I tell you that everybody's talking about AI and agentic AI and how AI affects their work and how AI introduces new risks. That hasn't changed. What I would say from my experience, at the end of the day, it's a new technology wave. we will adapt to it, we will understand it, we need to factor it. But again, just like you and your audience have always known, I've always been saying, right? At the end of the day, it's AI and people, and that hasn't changed, and that won't change. And we would still need to keep that in mind. And so, if I can give anyone just one piece of advice, it would be, yes, be ready. Change is happening. It's happening fast, but the core fundamentals haven't changed.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Gal. It was a pleasure talking to you today, and wish you and Teramind good luck with the Stuff RSA conference and beyond.
Thank you, Vivek. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.